So we all know at this point that Football Manager has been delayed until next March. If you don't, there's other videos. Go watch those. We're not dealing with that today. Well, we are, but not quite. So Football Manager just put out an update, and this is something that I spoke about on the FM show and on this channel about whether they could do an update to FM24, a data update to FM24 to bring everything, the licenses, all the data into FM24 for everyone. So they've just tweeted about it to explain why that's not possible, and that's something I've spoken about before. But just for a confirmation for some of you who were hopeful that perhaps haven't, it's obviously disappointing. I think we would have liked that, of course. I don't think no one should take it away that I don't think that this would be a good thing. Of course it'd be a good thing. It's just not realistic. Let's go have a look at the post. So here we are on the Football Manager Twitter page. Obviously, some horrible replies probably over here, so we're not going to read those. It says, following the announcement of the delay to FM25, many of you called for an official update to FM24 with the 24-25 data. This is something we've been exploring since the initial conversation about post. Now, it's interesting that they even explored it, which I would have thought, I mean, it depends how long they explored it. Maybe they're just saying that. But it's like, I thought they would, with the legal issues, especially since, the time issues, they've got to take staff away. I think it's like, I guess they could just put in a quick scoping. It could probably like an hour session or whatever. Like, can we do this? No. Okay, fine. Having now scoped the work to be required, and despite good initial response from many licenses, we cannot lift assets we're using in FM25 and make them work in FM24 without recreating them in full, which is interesting. I wonder what that means in terms of what would have to go from 25 into 4. It's probably things like, logos and all the Premier League stuff and all that, and probably around what their licensing is with people like the Premier League. The same right applies to many competition rules, translations, database changes that cannot be backported. Yeah, so every year there's a lot of stuff that goes into all that stuff, and like, it's not like these data updates that go up on websites, which we'll come back to. I'm going to have a talk a little bit at the end of this video about those data updates, because there's been a little bit of controversy around that this week. But yeah, it's not like those where they just, change the start date and move all the players around and, update your competition rules a little bit. Like, there's a lot more that goes in. Like, the competition rules have to be accurate. The competition rules, like, everything has to work. There can be no bugs, no quirks or anything. Like, they've got to create almost a polished product in a way. The updated DAS assets and data would both be required to obtain license or approval. They cannot be separated. So they have to get both the data approved and like the assets, so things like the Premier League logo, or I don't know, Man City logo, or Man United logo, for example. Man United, it could be Man United is the problem. Like, they have had history with Man United. Now they've got the Premier League license. They can bypass Man United in a way and use their assets. But before that, it's a bit awkward. This is a substantial undertaking which would take critical resources away from delivering FM25 the highest possible quality, which we simply cannot compromise on. So that's the other part of this, which I talked about before. Some of you call me an SI shill as a response. I'm not. I just try to explain how these things work. The reason they can't do it is because if they put their time and work into FM24, an FM24 data update, when they're already crunching to get FM25 out, like, something's got to give somewhere, right? And like, I guess some people say, well, just don't release 25. It's not a financial option. People say, oh, Sega make this much money, it's a drop in the ocean. That's not how big businesses work. Like, things will get cut, things will be gone. It's a consistent income that they'll rely on. It's, that's not how businesses work. I'm afraid sometimes we wish they would as a consumer, but that's not how businesses and publishers and industries work. Maybe you work in an industry where you're lucky and people can get away with skipping an output for a year, but in most industries that just simply wouldn't work, even if it was a profit-making industry. If you've purchased, right, this is another thing, right? If you've purchased FM25 and want a refund, you can get a refund. Like, go get it. Like, I don't even know how many people pre-purchased it, because I don't feel like, and this is what, people say I'm not critical. I am critical, so I don't feel we saw enough to make an informed pre-purchase. I didn't pre-purchase the game. I put out my link to pre-purchase because I knew that, in that video that at some point that we would have seen enough to allow for a pre-purchase, but I haven't put it in any videos since because it'd be dumb, right? Like, there's nothing out there for us to see. Now, when someone goes back and watches those, like, normally what would happen in the cycle is they put out 4 announcement videos, and at the end of every one of those announcement videos that I cover, I put a link to Fanatical or whichever partner I'm working with to go pre-purchase the game, and I get a little bit back from that. Not much, but a little bit. But the point is, someone might go and be like, okay, I want to watch all the feature videos. We'll start with number 1, number 2, number 3. And at some point, they'll decide, I've seen enough. I don't think, based on the first announcement alone, we'd seen that. In fact, we didn't even see anything in that first one, really. And the other thing is, some people are going to pre-purchase anyway. But if that is you, go get, some people do trust their side to deliver on this. I think they'll deliver. They'll deliver next year. Is it going to be a perfect game? Probably not. Is it going to have some growing pains? Probably. Am I willing to overlook that for a big revolution in what the game is? Yes. If it's not a big revolution and it has loads of problems, then I'm going to be critical. Like, I will tell you now. I'm not going to sit here and defend it if that's the case. But if the game is pretty different, fun, better, improved, with some growing pains, I'm all for it. We sincerely thank you for your patience. We're looking forward to delivering in March 2025. I guess the other thing, right? And this is, I want to reiterate this because I sort of said this in a few videos. The delay from the end of November till March, even though it's 4 months, probably isn't going to be when you take out dev time in terms of Christmas and January, everyone gets staggered, so everything gets delayed. So even if you've got half your workforce in at points, things rely on weight on other people and it just delays everything. So you lose probably 4 weeks plus of productivity during that time period. So you lose a month around there. And then they're planning on releasing the early access, the advanced access, they called it now, the advanced access. That's going to be a month before. So that's February. So by that point, they're only giving themselves roughly another 5 to 6 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks to polish things up. So it's not loads that is going to change. Remember, February's a very short month as well. Financial year obviously ends. That's the other thing a lot of people raise. Financial year ends March. I can see that Sega pushed for it to be out before end of financial year. Let's say that's one logical point that makes sense. And I'm sure FM agreed to that. Sports Interactive, agreed to that. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the other thing. So I'll come on to Sort Out SI. Right, I'll say first, I like the guys at Sort Out SI. They do some fantastic stuff. I'm going to be doing some stuff based on some challenges they've set up. I'm going to be putting some videos out based on those. And they announced this Project Classic FM, which I think looks really cool, right? So it's an updated database, but there's a massive caveat to this. I don't want you to go look at it just yet because I'll show you. There's a payment to it. Now, this caused a little bit of controversy. So obviously the reason these people can do it and Sports Interactive can't is because they don't have to deal with licenses. They don't have to deal with a lot of the technical stuff that from FM24 and around the assets and things like that. Because all the assets have to be approved by the licenses and all that. They don't have to deal with any of that. They just do it, and exist as they are, right? This has got some really cool features, which I'm not going to cover because actually what I want to cover is the fact that it's being charged for. Now, I don't want to say that people who do put a lot of work in, because people do put a lot of work into these kind of mods and databases, don't deserve to be paid. Certainly, if they had a donation link, I would encourage you to use it. But it goes against the terms and conditions of managing the EULA and the agreement with Sega. And the risk is if you go and get this, it could be cease and desisted tomorrow, today, and it'll be gone. And we've seen it before, especially from companies like Sega, Japanese companies who will, as soon as someone's making money off your product, and I think we've seen it before in Foot Manager, right? Things go quickly off the market if people are starting to charge for them. Essentially, it's I don't know, because FMRTE exists, right? And that's existed for a long time. And they charge for that. So I suppose that gets around it. There's a couple of databases that you need patrons to get access. Again, similar. But it's a risk you would take as a consumer. When you're saying here, £5 per year or £10 per year, will it last more than a year? There's no guarantee. I mean, there's no guarantee. There's no guaranteed support on any of this. I think the guys that Sort Out SI probably have good intentions with this, but there's no... It's just a warning for you out there. There are other databases. You want to play an updated database, there are updated ones. This seems to do a lot more than that, I will say that. It looks really cool. I think it's worth keeping an eye on, but I think the discussion around this is interesting, right? This update FM24, I think this is interesting. So just a warning, I think that is, that if you plan on getting this, it might disappear. So that's a little update on FM24, why it can't be updated with the new databases from Sports Interactive, a little bit about that Sort Out SI database, which I think is cool, but again, it's too much risk. You're gonna lose your money probably. So I wouldn't advise it. if you want to go check out, I don't know, let's go see where YouTube sends you. You'll enjoy this video, I'm sure.